Sean Diddy Combs trial starting with the music mogul's former assistant, Capricorn Clark, taking the stand.
The testimony today was regarding the alleged break-in at Kid Cudi's house, the alleged firebombing of his car. I've said it before, I said it again. Kid Cudi, very important witness in this case to establish some of the underlying crime.
Why would we need a 50-foot bed?
I mean, TD Jakes ain't small. I'm just saying. If it's a group thing, it's a group thing. You gotta think about, you got Rick Ross, you got Khaled, we talk about heavy hit.
Imagine the hush dropping like a guillotine's blade. Then, without warning, a clandestine recording shatters the calm. It's Diddy Combs' voice, casual laughter turning razor sharp as he casually name-drops two of Hollywood's unshakable icons. For a heartbeat, time stands still, the judge's pen hovers, attorneys' breaths catch in their throats, and every eye darts to the unseen speaker. No lights, no phones, only the electric charge of forbidden words. Outside, the world ignites in a frenzy. Numbered Diddy trial smolders across screens. In that suspended second, power, secrecy, and scandal collided, and nothing would ever look the same.
Cassie's been answering questions from Sean Diddy Combs' defense lawyers all day. Their job? To pick holes in the testimony she gave over the 2 days at the beginning of the week.
Since May 5th, 2025, Sean Diddy Combs has been under the harsh glare of a federal courtroom in Manhattan, facing an unprecedented wave of charges that read like a crime thriller. Prosecutors accuse him of masterminding a sprawling criminal enterprise in which power, privilege, and paranoia came together in the worst possible way. They allege that Combs and his inner circle orchestrated a system. Trusted assistants and burly security guards scouted young women, lured them to themed freak-off parties on private jets or in opulent mansions, spiked their drinks with unknown substances, and then filmed the ensuing encounters, capturing every detail on high-definition equipment. According to the indictment, these recordings were not for memories, but for leverage. A silent, unbreakable threat meant to keep these women compliant and silent, even after they left his orbit. Behind glossy magazine spreads and red carpet appearances, the government says, lay a clandestine network of safe houses, anonymous phone lines, and encrypted hard drives, all designed to hide the evidence of what really happened behind closed doors. The charges span racketeering, under the RICO Act, to counts of sex trafficking, extortion, and witness tampering. Prosecutors walked the jury through meticulously logged flight manifests for private jets that ferried guests from New York to Miami, Los Angeles to the Hamptons, each voyage doubling as an invitation to a potential crime scene. Mansion blueprints, once celebrated in architectural digests, are now exhibits for how the walls heard and record every whispered secret, every desperate plea. What makes these allegations even more striking is the contrast. A billionaire entertainer whose empire is built on charisma and luxury, now painted as the ringleader of a terror network cloaked in velvet ropes and champagne toasts. If convicted, Combs could face decades behind bars, and the very real prospect that the tapes he allegedly made will one day see the light of day, bringing down not just him, but the glittering facade of an entire world that once worshipped his name.
Than what he or she said in a documentary, or leaves out a detail, or adds a detail that they didn't say in the documentary, then that's absolutely fair game for cross-examination. And I assume in this case,
Cassie Ventura, often spotlighted as Diddy's on-again, off-again partner, opened her testimony with a quiet confidence that belied the storm she was about to describe. She recalled arriving at what she had assumed would be another glamorous celebrity gathering. Red carpets, velvet ropes, and the promise of exclusive VIP treatment. But behind the paparazzi flashes, an unspoken code ruled every party. Women were handed strict instructions the moment they stepped through the door. Follow every command without question, or be subjected to consequences that could be far worse than mere embarrassment. Ventura painted a vivid scene of one infamous evening. The grand dining table stood laden with silver platters and crystal glasses, an image of opulence. Then, when the first course was inexplicably delayed, Diddy's mood darkened in an instant. According to Ventura, he stormed into the room, eyes blazing, and scooped up a skillet brimming with perfectly cooked eggs. With a single, furious throw, he sent the eggs splattering across the floor and walls. Guests froze mid-sip, champagne glasses poised in midair. Laughter died on their lips as they exchanged terrified glances, unsure whether to flee or obey. That moment, she testified, laid bare the true cost of disobedience. What outsiders saw as a harmless display of star power was, in reality, a calculated show of force designed to keep everyone, staff, guests, even longtime friends, in line. Ventura described feeling the shift in the room's energy as every woman around her sank lower in their seats, eyes averted, hearts pounding. The opulent chandelier above, she said, suddenly felt less like a symbol of luxury and more like a spotlight on her own vulnerability. Her calm, measured delivery contrasted sharply with the raw fear she recalled in the eyes of fellow attendees. She admitted that she, too, had once doubted her own recollections, until she saw the lasting impact on her friends' faces. By the time she finished, the jury wasn't just listening. They were leaning forward, hanging on each detail. Cassie's testimony set the emotional stage for everything that followed, but jurors could tell this was only the beginning. Deeper, darker revelations lay ahead, and the courtroom braced itself for what would come next.
Got a bad financial incentive. And so, look, so much of this just comes down to the jurors are going to be sitting feet away from her. I mean, I've been in these courtrooms. They're going to be 4 feet away from her.
Next, Capricorn Clark, a former personal assistant, took the stand. She told of 2 kidnappings, once in New York, once in Miami. Both times, she was forced at gunpoint into a car. The worst came at an abandoned warehouse once tied to Bad Boy Entertainment. There, she spent 5 straight days hooked to a lie detector machine. A towering guard stood over her each morning with a cigarette in one hand and threats in the other. Fail the test, and you'll be dumped in the East River. Clark recalled the constant fear, the sleepless nights, the promise that escape meant death. Jurors listened in stunned silence, absorbing how quickly luxury had become torture.
Federal prosecutors allege Combs used his power and wealth to coerce and exploit alleged victims for decades. If convicted, Combs would be spending the rest of his life.
Then came the moment that would define week 3 of the trial, and you could almost hear a collective gasp in that room. Behind closed doors, jurors were led to a secure recording booth where they listened to snippets of conversations the prosecution had painstakingly authenticated. At first, it sounded almost innocent. Diddy's trademark laugh echoing off unseen walls, casual banter about drinks and after-parties. But then, the tenor shifted. Over the thrum of laughter, other voices filtered in. Voices that dropped names like Will Smith and Meek Mill as if they were part of the regular guest list. One clip opened with a hushed, "Remember that night in the suite?" followed by the unmistakable click of a door closing. Another recording featured a lighthearted tease. "Just keep these between us, Daddy's watching." That took on a menacing edge once you realized the stakes. The full tapes remained sealed to the public eye, but those fragments were enough to send a chill through the courtroom. You could see jurors stiffen, eyes widening as they exchanged glances. Even the judge paused, hand hovering over the bench, before instructing everyone to maintain absolute silence. Outside, the instant that door shut, the world exploded. Fans and critics alike dove into social media trenches, dissecting every rumor, every past interview, hunting for corroborating evidence. Suddenly, gossip columns felt like frontline reporting, and late-night talk show clips were being replayed for hidden cues. Was this all just salacious hearsay, or the first undeniable proof that some of Hollywood's most untouchable stars had been drawn into Diddy's clandestine world? That hush in the courtroom spoke volumes. These weren't fiction or idle gossip. These voices were real, and their words were as damning as any piece of physical evidence the prosecution could present.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
Within hours, both Will Smith and Meek Mill had to go public. Smith's camp released a terse, no-nonsense statement, "I have never been involved in any wrongdoing," while Mill took to social media with a longer post, calling the whispers false and hurtful and demanding an end to the speculation. Yet by then, jurors were already flipping through binders filled with glossy photos. Astroglide bottles gleaming under flashbulbs, sealed packets of baby oil stacked neatly on a shelf, and sophisticated audio recorders still tagged in evidence. Each image spoke louder than any denial, suggesting these weren't random toiletries, but carefully chosen tools in a chilling playbook. The courtroom buzzed with the implication that 2 of Hollywood's most bankable stars had been tangled in the very tapes Combs allegedly used as leverage. Gossip sites pivoted from gossip to legal analysis, dissecting Smith's single line of defense and scrutinizing Mill's emotional appeal for signs of guilt or innocence. Lawyers for the defense objected to any unfair prejudice, but the damage was done. The jury's eyes had lingered on those items long enough to connect the dots themselves. What once would have been dismissed as celebrity rumor now carried the weight of potential evidence, transforming idle chatter into a pivotal battleground in a trial that refuses to stay silent.
What about the documentaries and stuff like that that have been put out about him and some of the allegations against him, and people essentially co-signing on what he's being accused of because they're highlighting his behavior?
News of the courtroom bombshell spread like wildfire, igniting conversations from suburban patios to downtown lofts. By midday, trending hashtags weren't about weekend BBQ hacks, but about who was really at Diddy's inner circle. Twitter timelines flooded with split-screen comparisons of Diddy and Will Smith's red carpet hugs, sleuths pausing and zooming in on every frame, hunting for nervous glances or hidden handshakes. Reddit threads ballooned overnight, with users dissecting old Vine clips and late-night show bloopers, convinced that a fleeting eye roll or a whispered aside was a secret nod to the now infamous recordings. Even music blogs that once obsessively ranked best album drops pivoted to list top 10 times Diddy and Kid Cudi gave us audio evidence, dredging up Cudi's own firebombed car saga and suggesting every post-party selfie held new clues. Then came Don Richard's turn at the stand, and the courtroom felt as tense as a thriller's climax. Richard, once the confident frontwoman of a group Diddy managed, arrived in a simple black suit, her usual stage-ready poise replaced by a quiet vulnerability. In a voice barely above a whisper, she described that fateful night when dinner ran late and Combs's celebrity composure cracked. "He slammed the plate down," she testified, and without a word, struck Cassie across the face. The room froze, like time stopped. Even seasoned reporters in the gallery flinched at her words. When she spoke of Cassie's silent plea for mercy, jurors leaned forward, eyes fixed on the raw emotion unfolding before them. Outside the courthouse, the impact was electric. Paparazzi flashes caught Dawn's pale face as she exited, her expression a study in quiet devastation that spoke louder than any statement. Social feeds lit up with clips of her testimony, tagged #WitnessShock, and influencers speculated on her next steps. Would she fall silent under NDA pressure or risk her career to speak the truth? With each retold detail, an egg-splattered hallway, a gun-toting escort, a lie detector's hum, the prosecution's narrative hardened into an emerging dossier of evidence too vivid to dismiss as hearsay. What began as scandalous rumor was now forging an unshakable testimony, piece by undeniable piece.
I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right.
The trial is scheduled to stretch well into July, and the courtroom drama is far from over. Prosecutors have already signaled that the next wave of witnesses will include former security personnel, men who once stood guard at Combs's most exclusive events, alongside partygoers who escaped unscathed and audio technicians who will testify about the chain of custody for the secret recordings. Rumor has it they'll even call experts to break down the authenticity of voice samples, lip-reading specialists to verify who's saying what, and digital forensics analysts to trace every file back to its source. Behind the scenes, whispers have begun to circulate about additional tape vaults buried deep in Combs's business empire. Unmarked drives found in storage facilities, encrypted backup on offshore servers, and perhaps even personal collections that his closest confidants swore never existed. Prosecutors tantalized the jury with the suggestion that these recordings could expose not just pop icons and hip-hop moguls, but also high-profile executives and respected community leaders, figures who once attended his notorious white parties under a blanket of secrecy. If those tapes ever surface, the fallout would be seismic. Multi-million-dollar lawsuits, canceled endorsement deals, and a wholesale reevaluation of the glitzy, invitation-only events that defined an era. As closing arguments loom, the jury is left to sift through a mosaic of testimonies, photographs, and hush-hush hints of yet undisclosed evidence. They must determine whether Sean Diddy Combs' empire was truly a criminal enterprise built on coercion and intimidation, or merely a caricature of rumor and speculation.
You're gonna testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being, and it's going to pay.
One thing is clear. Behind the veneer of celebrity and luxury lies a tangled web of fear, and the verdict they deliver could rewrite Hollywood's history forever. By the time the jury finally delivers its verdict, this trial will have accomplished far more than determining one man's guilt or innocence. It will have cracked open the gilded bubble of Hollywood and rewritten the unspoken contract between stars and fans. That hushed courtroom moment, when forbidden tapes dissolved any illusion of untouchability, will echo in our collective memory as the instant we all glimpsed the machinery behind the velvet rope. No longer will red carpet embraces or VIP toasts feel the same. Every smile shared under the flashbulbs will carry a new charge, a reminder that fame can be both a shield and a weapon, that luxury can mask coercion, and that secrecy often grows in the shadow of privilege. Brands and agencies will rethink the celebrities they endorse, wary that a single headline can unravel years of carefully curated image. Managers will tighten guest lists, security teams will vet attendees more rigorously, and fans, once starstruck by access, will approach the next big party with a measure of skepticism. Yet, the trial's fallout isn't confined to Hollywood's C-suites and photo ops. For the women who testified, the survivors who found their voices under oath, this verdict represents something deeper. A promise that power has limits, and that even the most powerful can be held to account. And for those of us watching from the outside, it's a stark reminder that intrigue and glamour can coexist with danger and deceit. So, as you scroll through your feed tomorrow, pausing on that perfectly filtered after-party shot, remember what we learned here. The brightest lights can cast the darkest shadows, and sometimes the truth behind the sparkle is the most illuminating story of all.